Yeah, I think after this connecting only, I think I can see the control.
Yep, you're good to go. I think we still have some people joining, so we'll just give a minute or two more and then we'll kick it off. Yeah?
Sure.
To the folks in the audience, if you can hear us and see us well, just a quick chat will to let us know. It'll be great. Okay, I heard we can hear you, so that's fine. Another minute. Okay, panel, shall we start? Great. So welcome everyone. Good day and thanks to my panelists and to all of you for tuning in. Firstly, to set the order of the day, I wish everyone a tremendous 2021. We all need it after last year, right? To the audience, if you have any questions, please post it in the chat and we'll take them up during the discussion. Also, if you want to, please share your comments. We'd love to hear from you. As we pivot away from 2020, the year we all wish wasn't, and look forward to 2021 and beyond, we can't help but reflect on the changes brought upon us and the hindsight we've gained. A decade's worth of trends and behavioral and attitudinal adaptations compressed into a few months. The transformations in the workplace environment for the employee and the organizations, which were originally thought to be temporary, it's clear now that they are here to stay. That kind of sets the theme for today's discussion, the new talent paradigm. At Edge, our goal is to help organizations understand and simplify their talent decisions. We are driven by our vision to build a collaborative ecosystem that provides employers, employees, and job seekers real value. One of our most recent innovations, Edge Pathfinder, easily captures the employee skill and experience profile, based on which the employee can find the appropriate internal jobs and roles, develop a future relevant career trajectory, and the organization can quickly find the right fit employees, improving employee excitement and engagement, and avoiding costly external recruitment, helping enterprises and employees tackle the new talent paradigm. I want to show a quick sneak preview of Pathfinder before we kick off. Let me do that.
As an employee experience system, Edge Pathfinder puts the employee in the center, simplifies employee engagement, and makes it wonderful for you. Now, Pathfinder helps HR teams and employees with auto-filled, standardized, consolidated profiles of all the employees. Based on employee profile information, Pathfinder recommends the best internal jobs that the employee is eligible for. It also tells the employee where they can upskill to be relevant and help them with career path so that their career can go to the next level. Putting the employee in the center of all talent decisions, making the employee feel valued, engaged, and future-proof in your organization, thereby making the organization more efficient and future-proof. At Edge, this is how we use tech for good.
Great. Now, let's turn to my wonderful panel, Nisha, Madu, and Nagendra, who will help us understand from their perspective the imperatives of the new talent paradigm. I would like to invite each of you to briefly introduce yourselves. Nisha, shall we start with you?
Sure. Thank you, Suranjan. Thanks also to my fellow panelists. It's I'm quite excited to have this discussion here this morning and night for you, Suranjan. So, just a brief introduction about me. I do two things. Like I was just saying this to Madhu earlier today. I manage outreach at a seed fund called Axilor Ventures, and I also write on the future of work. So what that means is that I really look out for trends that are affecting us. So I call it the intersection of tech, culture, and people. Right. So anything that affects any of these paradigms interests me, and I write really long articles about it.
Thank you, Nisha. Madhu?
Yeah, hi everyone. It's great to be here, and as Nisha said, good to meet all of you. And my role as a CIO of Virtusa. Virtusa is a global IT services company. We operate around the globe, delivering services to some of the large enterprises around the world. I play the role of CIO for the company, and I'm also involved in several other organizations more on the grassroots outreach type organizations doing digital inclusion. And I'm also sit on the board of a large bank. So looking at this from a different angles, whether it's from a grassroots or IT services, enterprise, and digital and banking. So I'm hoping to share some of the thoughts and some of the things that we are seeing. So very excited about the next hour with you.
Sure. Thank you, Madhu. Nagendra?
Thanks, Suranjan, and good morning, everyone. My name is Nagendra, and I'm the Director of Product at Edge. Edge is a HR tech SaaS-based company where we create HR tech products to simplify talent decisions using AI. So I've been with Edge for about 3 odd years now, and I come with predominantly product management experience spanning well over a decade. Extremely passionate about creating products and really going to the root of users' problems and then see what we can do there. I'm a part of an NGO. I'm pretty passionate about the weekend job that I have, where we interact with schools and the. So that's me.
Great. Thank you, Nagendra. And hi, everyone. I'm the Chief Business Officer at Edge. Sorry, there's a lag, Nagendra, with your audio, I think. Did everybody hear that? Nisha and Madhu as well? Yeah? Okay. Yeah. So I'm Suranjan. I'm the Chief Business Officer at Edge, based in the US in a suburb close to Dallas. So it's close to midnight here, as Nisha acknowledged. So I know, but it's a great pleasure to be able to do this session with all of you. Thank you very much for taking the time. And with that, let me kick it off. Yeah. As the new normal sets in, we have as we all know and are used to it now, getting used to it now, a hybrid virtual model that is pretty much our lives now. Most of us spend a lot of time working from home, changing the way we live and make us more comfortable with the digital world of work, right? Josh Burson, an eminent HR expert and thought leader, recently postulated in his latest HR predictions report that the biggest word of the year is resilience. I guess it was last year's biggest word, and I think it is going to continue for this year as well. So I'm going to pose a question to all of you and open the discussion with that. From your perspective, how have you experienced resilience in your life in the past year? in the workplace, in your teams, in your personal environments? Nisha, you want to start?
Sure. So I think the biggest resilience that I saw, and considering that Axilor really works with really early stage startups, right? I mean, our startups, are say probably in less than 18 months of their journey, when we fund them, and we have a portfolio of about 45, 48 companies. And when I mean, in India, when the lockdown struck, I think that's when we realized that this is hitting us for real. And it was the worst time, actually, because it was quite, none of us were really prepared for it. While we were hearing about it across the world, or some of the other countries, we thought that maybe this is not going to affect us, right? For at least not immediately. So when this happened, I think for companies it was the toughest period, right? Because here we are talking about companies, some of them in the logistics space, having warehouses whose warehouses were just shut, factories were shut, manufacturing was shut. And some companies also were not classified as essential services. And I think that became the biggest differentiator to me in 2020. What is essential and what is not, right? Even in life, if you notice, that's how 2020 became. And
Right.
and when and when we saw these companies struggle, it was then that we realized that there's only two ways to deal with this situation. You either continue to struggle, or just try to use it as an opportunity. Also, because none of us knew then that the lockdown is going to last for 40 days, or I mean, it was a period where we didn't know anything, right? It was completely blank. And resilience to me, therefore, was how all of these companies fought back. And I actually wrote about it, and that article got picked up by the World Economic Forum also, because I had written about resilience and examples of how startups, even if they were non-essential, started adding either an essential aspect to their work, or finding out these really, really innovative ways of pivoting, right? And that to me was true resilience. And it's so amazing to notice, actually, that we did not have any COVID mortalities in our portfolio. And I don't think, I mean, and I say it for our fund, but I know that this is a very similar story across funds in India.
Sure. Thanks for that, Nisha. Madu?
Yeah, I think in our space, obviously it's unprecedented events that we are all going through, and I think thankfully in the IT services space, these are the trends that we've been working through. Working from home, remote work, those are stuff that we were ready for, right? And so we were building our organization to be able to work from anywhere, work across the globe. So we were very quickly able to, move 25,000 people work from home within, less than a week, right? And have the right level of security and so forth in place, because we were building for it, right? And obviously we didn't foresee a COVID coming, but we foresaw that the work will be done from anywhere and everywhere, and we've had that trend going on in our workplace for a while. Right? I think the resilience, some of the things that we saw, which really worked extremely well, is how well people came together, right? And I think the resilience to me is about, in the adversity, how do you really quickly respond as a business, right? And then reimagine your business for a new paradigm, right? I think that's from firstly making sure that you really continue to run your business without impacting our clients, and ensuring that their businesses are successful, and then reimagining your business to be able to work from remotely, and come up with new ways of leading, managing, learning. I think most industries are going through accelerated digital transformation, right? And us being in the kind of center of delivering digital transformation for our clients is really accelerating what we've been always trying to do and has been doing with our clients. So in that sense, it gave us a huge acceleration from a IT services perspective, right? I think we will continue to see that companies in our space reimagining and really accelerating their work with their clients to help others become more digital and more resilient in their businesses, right? So I think it's initially, yes, you really have to bring together your teams and respond. And I was amazed by the way that people came together in the beginning, right? I mean, in Metro days, everybody rallied around to really continue to drive the business without any interruption. So, and then over time, when things move to get settled down, obviously we had challenges on last mile connectivity and people having remote places, not having the right kind of environment to work. Those are the things that we have to iron out over the period. But I think resilience is really about, how do you respond, and then reimagine and bounce back into the new paradigm, right? And I think we've seen ample examples of that within our clients as well as in our own organizations.
Sure.
In this COVID time.
Sure. Great. So we'll probably dive into that a little bit more through our next few questions. Nagendra, from your perspective.
Sure. So just adding on to what Madhu was talking about, right? I kind of usually go back to the root of, to the roots really, to truly understand or define something. And in this case, the etymology, I suppose, of the word resilience. What does it really mean? Just adding on to what Madhu said, it stands for the ability of an object or a sentient being at that, the ability of that object or person to be able to withstand and mold back and spring back, in Madhu's words, to its original shape after a considerable amount of stress. Now, if 2020 was anything, it was stressful. I mean, it was about how governments reacted to the situation. They really grappled to react to the situation. Billions were ordered in a way to stay indoors, and millions lost their jobs. Businesses closed, and the ones that remained open, they had to devise new ways of working. Madhu used the word unprecedented, right? Even the usage of the term unprecedented was unprecedented. So the impact has been far-reaching. It kind of made us and me as well stop in our tracks and reconnect. So reconnect with our families, reconnect with our friends, and actually reconnect with ourselves. It made us appreciate the simpler things in life, I suppose. So to me, it has been a year of adaptation. It has been a year of introspection. And I really see evidences of people adjusting to the new normal and moving on. I suppose paradigm is now the new normal. And I see teams connecting over coffee. So in fact, my conversations with my team have moved on from just punching together in a lunch or cafeteria space to just having a session over video calls. My wife and I see a different side to my daughter now that we spend so much time with her today. So I think the show must and in a way will go on, and we will spring back, but a little hurt, but hopefully a lot wiser. So that to me is us coming back.
Great. Thank you, panel, for that. I'll ask the next question to Nisha. Nisha, in your experience and discussions with startups, the word reskilling, impending redundancy of current roles and skills, the need to embrace new skills, these kind of words and thoughts and questions have been dominant, right? You also are aware there are some reports which suggest nearly 50% of jobs as we know today will not exist 5 years hence. That is scary, right? And I'm sure it's scary for the talent employed in the startups that you discuss and talk with, and what we know, right? Share with us some of the key aspects of your findings from these discussions from an employee and the organization's point of view.
Sure. So skilling was actually one of the reasons I even started researching on the future of work, right? Because every discussion you'd have with people or with anybody, like people like me even, right, working somewhere, the biggest fear to some extent was, will I be able to keep up? What are the skills of the future? Like I still get asked that, and it took me some time to think about this a little, and why is this such an important part of this discussion, right? And what struck me was, in our parents' generation, for example, they didn't have to reskill the way we do, right? And it's 3 to 5 years that we will have to continue to reskill. And it is only simply because of the way technology has been changing and how fast technology has been changing, right? Sometimes overnight it changes. One part of the globe is always awake, and by the time we are awake, something has already changed, and obviously then there is enough to keep skilling and enough to know about. So the discussion really with startups has been a couple of things, right? One, the way I see it is that startups kind of disrupt some of the skills that let's say traditional organizations have, and
Right.
I've seen that in accounting and finance particularly, or now I'm also seeing it a lot in HR tech. I'm sure Nagendra and Madu will be able to add a lot more on that. So replacing the entire HR team, for example, or being a supplement to the HR team. So these are the things that I'm seeing quite extensively. The other thing I'm seeing extensively, I don't know if it's skilling really, but a trend is of rapid digitization, even with SMBs. So there's this one thing where everybody has to, even if you hate it, you can't avoid it. You have to, be able to grapple with technology. So what does that mean for organizations? It's just simply, like everyone here agrees, I'm sure, keeping abreast, moving fast. For the employee, obviously it is about changing, right? And being open to change. I think more than changing, being open to change, because I know a lot of people who say that this isn't going to happen to me. That's how the government approached COVID, right? This isn't going to happen to me, but it happens faster than we can even imagine. So I think this is something that we have to keep in mind. And I have a little bit of a framework. Like, a lot of people ask if I can predict the skills of the future because of whatever I spoke about. Skills of the future, to me, you can't really predict that this is what it's going to be, because it could be something totally different. But my framework, which I have put together and I keep telling people, is that it's important to have your core set of skills, right? Like for me, if I love to write, writing is that. Peripheral skills are skills. So, the next set are your peripheral skills. So in that, what it really means is that how are you enhancing your core skills through your peripheral skills? So do I really know how to market my writing, or, am I really good at social media with my writing? Then there's a certain set of time relevant skills. So do I know how to promote my writing on TikTok? I know it's banned in India, but can I do that? Right? And then the third one, which I call, which interests me the most, is passion or insurance skills. And for me, future of work is actually that, right? Because it's not my core area at all. But it's something that I started out as a side project only because I know that I'll have to bank on something if something doesn't work. So this is a little framework on how one can approach skills, is what I think.
No, I think that's an interesting framework. I'll probably tap into that for myself as well at some point with you, Nisha. Yeah.
Sure.
Madhu, the next question I'll kind of direct at you. 1 second. Yeah. You are the, as I understand, you call it the Chief Intelligence Officer at Virtusa, right? From that perspective, what are you seeing as the critical demands on your role, and how that's changed to meet the organization's needs, as well as satisfy the employees' quest for career enhancement? I think that's increasingly becoming key, at least what we see, right? So I wanted to get your perspective. From an employee perspective, what are you seeing their needs? And it'll be great if you could also intersperse some perspective that you might be seeing from your what your customers are imposing on Virtusa, and what their employees are probably seeing.
Right. No, that's a great question. I think I think the if you really look back in the last maybe year or so, right, I think there is a newfound appreciation for technology in most companies, right? And IT guys who were kind of in the back office now all of a sudden the heroes in the company who had really helped them to continue their business, right? So so I think there is a huge appreciation at the boardroom levels and at the executive leadership level what technology can do for a business, right? It's overnight there's a massive understanding has come in, right? So I think with that there's a significant amount of demand. Okay, now how do we firstly, once you get over the fact of okay, I want to keep the business afloat and make it run without interruptions, immediately next to that comes okay, how do I now transform, right? What do I do to drive a new paradigm for our business, right? And I think there are a couple of areas in our type of business. Is really as Nisha was talking about, fundamentally it's about skills, right? How do we make sure it's no longer about jobs and more about skills, even from an employee perspective as well as employer perspective, or your client or your employee. So it's about enabling skill development and making sure that people have the right opportunity. The learning has completely changed, right? Starting from schools to universities, education has dramatically changed in the last few weeks. And so how do you keep up with that kind of stuff inside the corporation, right? How do we enable that level of learning? Other big shift and big thing that we are trying to enable is this whole idea of getting to more borderless talent, right? Now this also creates an opportunity to go get talent from anywhere. It doesn't have to be wherever you have centers, right? We went from having like 25 offices globally to 25,000 offices everywhere around the world, right?
Right.
And adding another 5,000 anywhere around the world is not a problem now, right? So the mindset has changed. So how do you build that kind of borderless talent acquisition, getting into gig? And these are some of the stuff that we are right now to see how do we now get talent without even employing people, right?
Right.
To drive that. So we see a lot of that on the whole talent supply chain. We are trying to transform that and completely drive the business. So that's one big area, right? And the second thing is around security, right? And as we really expand your contours of your organization to be around the internet all over the place, and especially when you're working with some high security clients like banking, financial services, how do you make sure that you create data security? How do you be safe from vulnerabilities which has sprung up dramatically in the last 6 months, right? In fact, I've read a MasterCard prediction. It says like a 600% increase in cyber attacks in the last 6 months alone, right? So how do you keep your enterprise secure? That's a huge focus for your technologies in the companies. Then the third point that you talk about is around the talent and the individuals, right? What is the expectation from employees and how do we drive that? So I think there are a few. One is, okay, firstly, how do you make sure their livelihoods are maintained so they can actually work from wherever they are, right? And enabling. And secondly is about learning and keeping them ahead of the curve, right? How do we enable your team members to connect, your leaders to lead in very different ways, right? And what I call going from a hierarchy to a hierarchy, where you work more like a network, connect with people in a very different ways, right? And I think it's a mindset change, and the technology, to Nisha's point earlier, has enabled that, right? Now in this kind of context, it's become even more important, right? Earlier these trends were happening, some are embracing and some are lagging. Maybe 10% of the people were trying to do this. Here, we are now trying to get 100% of the people to do it, right? So your leadership approach has to change, right? So we are trying to, I've been pushing things like Yammer and Teams in the company for many, many years, right? And all of a sudden, the penny has dropped now, right? Okay, how do I be visible to the company? How do I as a leader, connect with my team members on a digital mediums very differently? So there's a huge culture and work transformation that's going on, right? The other piece that we are trying to also see whether we can adopt technology from an employee perspective is the wellness and health part, right? Mental health, especially. And when people are working at the same place continuously, I think we see a rise in tension and stress levels, right? And I think especially when you're not having enough human interaction, human interfacing with people, right? So we're trying to bring in, some elements of, gaming around, step challenges and bringing some of people getting together and doing these challenges virtually, bringing the families together. So a few things we're trying to do to drive that health and well-being focus a little bit in the Smith. That I think companies are now moving into that space, whereas earlier they would have been a nice to have thing. Now this is something that most companies should really think about from their employee perspective. How do you bring that in? How do you support that, right?
Right.
Because it becomes a key challenge otherwise, right? So these are a few things that we see that are changing, and as a technologist in a company, that is now on your shoulders to kind of bring the company towards those things. But the good news is that everybody is now very open to this now. Right? That's what my job very exciting now. It's people asking, hey, what can we do here?
Right. No, I think that's so true. The digital initiatives, technology initiatives, employee engagement and care initiatives, I think that, as they say, they've all moved from being okay, we have to do them kind of initiatives, to moving to the boardroom kind of initiatives, right? They're top of mind for most organizations.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's so true. Nagendra, the next question to you. You are developing some of the most innovative ideas in the talent management and employee experience space through the products that at Edge, right? How would you portray the human and business problem and how you're trying to address it?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think it's of given the times now, it's of a level of importance that we really cannot separate talent management and employee experience. They just cannot be disconnected from one another. Businesses that do that today, they're quickly realizing that providing a great employee experience isn't and shouldn't be an afterthought. It is actually the imperative. So look at the current workforce. We have 4 and sometimes even 5 generations at work today. These generational cohorts are made up of the individuals who have distinctively different mindsets. Some of them want job security, just going back to the points that we were discussing earlier. Some of them want job security. Some of them want to actually hop and learn more. Some of them are in it for the money, and some of them are in it for the learning. So diversity of opinions and diversity of views is of paramount importance. Now, diverse views are needed to invite different opinions and see things from a different various vantage points. This diverse mindset, right, is unique to an employee's era of growth. And this is what kind of molds different employees' aspirations too. So, but where does all this come together? You've got these 5 generations at work, each coming with them their own sets of opinions. But where do they all come together? Where are they united? It's at the workplace. And the workplace needs to offer avenues to cater to the aspirations of these individuals spanning generations. This is going back to what Madu said as well, to enable employees see opportunities within the workforce. So how do we address this at Edge? We develop products that capture the aspirations of these individuals, these diverse set of individuals. We understand what ticks an employee, why they wake up each morning and log into that video meeting. Where are their passions and where do they want to grow? Which functional areas do they want to branch into? What knowledge areas do they want to branch into? Just going back to what Nisha spoke earlier about skills. Each of them want to learn new skills. And in fact, one of the survey that was done by MIT, I suppose, mentioned that employees today believe they do not have the skill sets to flourish after 4 years. So they want to be well prepared. So it's about giving these avenues for the employees to grow and also even understand the answer to the cliched question, where do you want to be 5 years down the line? So businesses and organizations, they cannot be blasé about employees' passions and purpose, because that's the innate being of an employee. Instead, going again, just re-emphasizing on Madhu's point, they need to devise mechanism to channel employees' passion and purpose towards achieving business goals. So avenues must be provided to facilitate meaningful exchanges between employees and businesses or opportunities within the organization. And the script should really move from how to make better investments in people to how to make better investments in themselves. So agency and choice should really prevail, and they need to be promoted within the workplace. And that just gets me back to how we address this at Edge, right? So Edge Pathfinder, it's the opportunity marketplace product that we have. It does just that. It provides employees the visualization they need to understand where they are and the lacunae, if any, to plug to get to where they want to be. It then connects employees to opportunities within the business that is in alignment with both their purpose and their passion. And I would portray the problem of human and or rather the human and the business problem as the ability to align human purpose with business goals. Like when you do that, right, that's the win-win situation, so as to speak. So Edge Pathfinder is really a design to address this problem.
Yeah, thank you, Nagendra. Yeah, having seen Pathfinder up close, I know that it does great justice to solving that problem. Yeah. Madu, the next question to you. In the IT services industry, global teams have been in virtual pod environments pretty much. It's the norm, right? So while that's the case, the local workforce always used to work in office campuses. Now, as you mentioned earlier, this is obviously changing now, and it's obviously affecting the dynamic of in-person employee engagement, the soft benefits part, feedback, etc. Right? Can you share with us some of the challenges and maybe some advantages that your organization has faced on this front because of these kind of changes, and how you've dealt or are dealing with it?
Yeah, no, that's a great point to kind of ponder. See, we always talk about these two piece-size teams and people coming together in the same room and kind of coming with ideas, getting on a board and collaborating. A lot of that creativity comes out when people can bounce off with each other and new ideas come in, right? I think obviously one of the areas that get really impacted with this distributed work is that, right? The serendipity that happens at work is no longer there, right? The water cooler conversation, somebody explaining, hey, I'm having this challenge, what do you guys do? There is really, that's completely kind of a maybe majority that is gone away, right? So if you want to stay abreast and tap into that, we'll have to find out new ways of doing it, right? And so we are trying to do a few things around that. One is really adapting more structured way of getting into that. Things like design thinking. You have ways of really bringing people in, go through a process of following to get kind of to innovate and drive, right? So that's one area we're trying to address, that whole idea of innovation. The other big thing is that, how do you find out about what everybody else is doing, and that creates that whole network effect in a company. And one of the things that we've been doing, again, this kind of predates COVID, we've been really trying to adopt this concept of work out loud, right? Where you really kind of showcase what you do, almost like work like an artist, right? What you're doing, put it out there, talk about it, and then you track other people who have similar interests, right? These are conversations that you are having, not knowing who's on the other end, right? You're going and say, here's what I'm doing, here's what I found, here's what I'm reading in your kind of enterprise social networks and things like that. Then start creating these communities, right? So kind of digital is helping to a certain extent to when the work patterns are changed and people think, okay, I need to now do something differently for that. And so that's one area I think we are trying to drive to address, that whole area of innovation and collaboration. The other area you touched on is whole feedback and leadership and how do we transform that. I touched on a little bit earlier on that. Again, that's a big challenge, right? How do we give people feedback, have that conversation, and I think onus is a lot more on the individual now, right? And you have to now reach out and say, hey, I want feedback, I want to grow, have that conversations, initiate that conversations, right? because a lot of the work that you do is probably not visible to people anymore, right? Unless you communicate that, right? Earlier somebody would see what you're doing. You're passing by a room and you see what's going on in a conference room and who's working, who's doing what, and it's little visible. Right now, today that's gone, right? And what you do is what you make out it to be out there in the, you have to take a lot more effort in really creating that same thing, right? So we've adapted few things. We've adapted like this whole kind of cool feedback mechanism, which is like a Uber-like thing. Very quickly you can do feedback when somebody gets off a project, get on a project. So we try to create more point feedback on a long journey, as opposed to giving feedback at a end of 6 months or a
6 or 9, 12 months. Yeah, that's right.
Right. So try to make it more continuous. Again, trying to adopt technology for doing that. Early days still. The other challenge that we see is whole demonstrating productivity, especially for our clients, right? Obviously, clients whose we are building platforms, products for, they want to know, okay, I'm spending for like 100 people team. I want to know that everybody's productive. Can you demonstrate that, right? And when somebody's at home, whether they're working or whether they're doing something else, is a natural question people ask, right? So we're trying to see how do we shift that from a more from a outcome based, output based to kind of outcome based, right? So you are really start measuring more outcomes. Again, that's a paradigm that our industry has been trying to shift into.
Right.
And now we're saying, okay, now it's, we really have to get there, because it's, you can't try to drive productivity by looking at what people are doing, right? That's just a losing battle, right? But if you change your focus to outcomes, right? So one of the things that we are trying to adopt is this whole concept of OKRs, objective key results paradigm, which I think kind of pioneered in Intel and Google, and now kind of widely getting adapted in many places.
Right.
So we have to use that to get into a more objectives, outcome-based model, right? So these are some of the areas that challenges, and somehow we're trying to kind of overcome some of that stuff. Some of them obviously work. Some of them takes a while for people to embrace and understand and get there. But I see the tide is shifting in that right direction, right? With everybody is getting aware about it.
Yeah, no, you're so right about that. From a talent perspective, obviously, for them to be measured on outcomes is a paradigm shift again. And that's something which, with the emergence of the gig concept, gig workforce concept, I think it makes it a little bit easier to kind of think through it and adapt.
Right? Yeah. So we built this platform called Reps, which is essentially it's like a gamified platform for people to see where they are. So we, instead of kind of measuring somebody on 5 things at the end of 6 months, here are you on and work has also moved into a lot of digital platforms, right? So you have a lot more signals coming in. So Reps platform kind of pick up what people are doing, whether their co-work of how many, what are they doing in coding, how are they doing teaching others, what courses they're taking, what referrals they're making, trainings they're doing. All those signals can come into coming into this kind of Reps thing. It's like a gamification, right? You get points for things that you do, and you create visibility to what you're doing, right? So these kind of things are now becoming a lot more useful,
right?
In the kind of a context that you don't see people too much.
Thank you, Madhu. Thank you for that. Nisha, what's your experience on this whole virtualization topic, especially in startups where it's very small groups as it is, and they're more used to collaborating and brainstorming in person? How do you see that having changed over these last few months?
Sure. It's actually my next write-up, and the topic is actually very, very deep, right? While Madhu has already pointed out, a few things. What really, I mean, the 3 things that come out from my multiple conversations. Initially, when I got into researching this topic, I thought that it's very easy. We've read it all. We've read, we know so much about this topic that actually I was really skeptical that it is a done to death topic. but the findings really surprised me, right? So 3 things that came out from this, and when I spoke to startups as well as slightly large organizations about this whole model itself of how we've been working, and I kind of drew out, another one of my frameworks for that. So 3 things about work itself have changed. Firstly, so work is no longer limited to uh, an office space or a space, right? So that is one huge aspect. Work is no longer 9 to 5 even. First, I like this line I read somewhere that earlier the clock was a proxy to productivity, and now that isn't true anymore. And the third thing that has happened is work is a lot more outcome driven than it earlier was, right? Because earlier, if you were working as part of a team, nobody could point out who was doing what in that team. It was the collective output of the team. But now it is the output of an individual, and you can track that very easily. So while that itself has changed about work, or it has already been changing, but this has come out now, 3 models of how we work have come up. And just to talk about the virtual model, uh, the finding was that long-term work from home is never really going to work because of too many challenges, and especially when we did this, because it was pandemic induced, it affected mental health in varying degrees for every individual. So while that is happening, hybrid definitely seems to be the solution, or it seems to be like the middle path, right? Because you come to work a few days, you work from home or wherever you want to remotely for a few days, and then there are some companies that are actually going remote first. And while I think remote first is for really early adopters and it is for digital first companies, the hybrid model itself, from when I spoke to people, and while everybody is really excited about it, there are 2 huge aspects that again nobody is talking about. One is the cost implication. So earlier, while your office space is a taxable asset, right? And it is a depreciating asset. What happens is that if a lot of a friend of mine who is a remote lawyer, right? I mean, a lawyer for remote workers. She kind of told me that people don't turn up in the long run to office, especially those who stay far away. So this asset, I mean, your utility cost and your asset cost turns out to be much higher, because you also have people costs which you cannot kind of do away with if people are not coming to office.
Right.
And the second aspect of hybrid is that you technically, actually, the whole point about hybrid that kind of I am not very comfortable with is that you don't really change too much, right? You're using the same technology, you're using the same way that you work, and you know that you will be going back to office. So in a remote first environment, whereas you have like even interviews, for example, are done by a chatbot first, and then they moved on to people. But in a remote environment, I can't tell people that we can, we will do it that way, right? So I mean, that's my own personal bias towards the hybrid model, but I hope I've answered your question in that how different models are panning out. And yeah, the one huge aspect that comes through earlier, again, I was a bit skeptical about it, but it came through with every conversation, is that since we're social beings in any model, I think it's to solve for the remote, I mean, the water cooler moments, or, chat moments, right? And in a remote first organization, while they've come up with a billion ideas, on getting creative with this, I think this has still not been solved, and it can only be solved with in-person discussions.
Yeah, that's so true. I'm still waiting for the solution to water cooler gossip in organizations to happen virtually.
That apparently it hasn't yet happened in a very nice way.
Yeah.
I think one, just if I may add one point, I think it's.
Well, I see a product opportunity there.
The reason for that,
That's
I think
right.
the answer to that is passion, I guess, right? If you think about open source world, right? It's like Linux, massive operating system built by people who have never seen each other and completely remotely for years,
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, if you crack the code of passion in there, I think you get this water cooler all become irrelevant, but you can drive that. But obviously, not every organization has that. So you need to figure out an alternative to water cooler. But the passion is, I think, secret sauce to get some of this working.
Correct. Absolutely. I think we are moving into the last 10 minutes. So let me move on to the next question. I'm sure this is on everybody's mind, the impact of AI. We all know that on one hand, the benefits of AI are undeniable. Whereas on the other, when we read reports that the robots are coming to take our jobs, 50% of current jobs will vanish because of AI, etc., they obviously create angst within the workforce. And I'm sure you in your respective environments right now or earlier have experienced this. I have, for sure. I'll ask you to share how you're experiencing some of this angst from your workforce and how you're dealing with it in your respective realms of influence. I'll start with you, Nagendra, because Edge's products are obviously built on a powerful AI engine, and it powers the intelligence we aspire to deliver to our clients, right? Tell us how you're balancing this benefit with the threat. Nagendra? Nagendra is frozen. Hello, Nagendra? Can you hear us? Can you hear
Sure.
me?
Yeah, robots taking over the world, right? Who knows if we'll see Judgment Day in our lifetime. Yep. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can. Earlier I wasn't able to. So keep going. I see you're on mute. So we'll
Yes,
wait
I
till
can hear
Nagendra
you.
gets.
Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, there's a lag, Nagendra. So we can't hear you continuously. So we'll come back to Nagendra. In the meanwhile, Nisha, do you want to take that question and give us your experience and views on how you're seeing this benefit and threat equation play out?
Right. So I can give you two views here. One is from my own research, one from obviously what I've been reading. Uh, so, so at some time back, I had done this story on how AI is affecting this hiring space, and like I just said, that even startups, a lot of startups are working on replacing the HR team and things like that. And when I was actually putting this piece together, something very interesting came up, and I refer to this as the centaur chess, right? So basically, what it means is that I I personally, because we've not really seen use cases evolve yet. Personally, I think that AI is more like this GPS to human choice. It gives you options, and you pick up the option that works best for you. So to some extent, I don't think it can really replace humans. What I do think is we'll go back to this whole skilling debate where it makes some humans smarter, but definitely people who are doing some of the odd jobs, or I don't mean odd jobs. What I mean is some jobs that are repetitive. I definitely think that people who are doing such jobs will have to be reskilled towards doing something more, something where, for example, you will have to kind of use, your intelligence, your analytics, and your critical thinking a lot more, and therefore with AI being your enabler. So, this was one aspect. The other aspect, actually, I was reading sometime back, I think last year, maybe the year before that, I can't remember this exactly, but World Economic Forum predicting, a very similar thing, right? That AI will never replace jobs. In fact, I think it will create, I may be wrong with this number, but it was 33 million or some such, some such number on the jobs it can actually create. So I may be really wrong about this number, right? But the number was pretty significant um, on the number of jobs that it will create. So I think the bit about AI is that while it exists, I think it'll be more, at least in the near future, I don't think it is as predictive as we want it to be. Therefore, the whole centaur chess aspect comes, into play. But eventually, I think it's, we'll only have to wait and watch. Like we saw, none of us can really predict the future, right?
Sure, absolutely. Madhu, what's your perspective?
Yeah, I think Nisha covered it kind of a broad level. Let me give you some specifics in our space, right? And in software development, I think it's probably a long while away before AIs will start building software, right? So we have to be safe for a little while. And but we are trying to leverage AI, especially in improving our organization, right? One of the things that we are doing, obviously, with Suranjan, you and Nagendra and the team, we are adapting the Pathfinder platform really to optimize our talent journey, right? How do we leverage AI in finding the right team members for the right opportunities and putting the right people on the right opportunities so they can grow, right? So we're really exploring and leveraging AI in creating better opportunities for our team members as well as optimizing talent for our customers, right? So that's one big area that we are embracing AI. We've kind of tried adapting AI in the area of prediction of attrition and performance. We had varying degree of success. In some cases, we've been able to succeed, and other cases we are still work in progress. We haven't cracked the code yet, but we are trying to see how we adapt to help us business be more predictive in that sense, right? Then area we really embrace AI assisted technologies is in the security space, right? Detection, anomaly detection in your environment, because the threats have really dramatically changed the way that they're so sophisticated, right? So you need to correlate multiple signals, understand the normal behavior of your network or users, and then understand patterns to recognize any new threats in your environment. So we embrace this whole area called user behavior entity analysis. It's called UBEA on the security side, right? So that's a big area. We've already deployed AI-based technology. The third area we are kind of playing with is around AI-assisted software development, right? How do we help our development process to be more AI-assisted in terms of looking at the code quality, code reviews, and things like that? How do we mimic a more expert system in helping to scale some of these code quality-related challenges using technology, right? So those are kind of few areas where we've embraced, and we are trying to experiment and trying to understand AI, and we do a little bit on the revenue side as well, our sales side. Working on technologies like Einstein to see how we can do more predictive on our revenue journey.
Forecasting and
try to understand opportunities. Another big area that not we are specifically doing, but some of the platforms we have adapted, like Teams and Office 365. There's a lot of work going on. This whole digital assistant coming into Office, right? And this world, helping really using technology to help you become more productive, right? I think there's a tremendous amount of stuff that we've seen now. Every morning when I open my mailbox, it tells me the commitments I've made. Hey, you said this thing to this person. Have you responded to that? Or you haven't spent enough time one-on-one with these people. Have you done this?
Right.
AI-assisted kind of technology that comes in to help you become more productive and drive that. So we see it's kind of coming in a lot more practical sense now, right? Whether it's security, whether it's productivity, whether it's a talent supply chain. I think that paradigm is definitely coming in. It may not replace work largely, but it will be AI-assisted productivity. Yeah.
Sure. And I know we are
just to add on
coming
to that, right?
almost to the. Yeah, Nagendra, go ahead.
Sorry. I was just saying, just to add on to what the panel was talking about, I think we are apprehensive about the stuff that we don't truly understand, and we deem what is beyond our understanding as a potential threat, to err on the side of caution, I suppose. And we've just begun to scratch the surface of AI, right? There is a lot more ice to the AI iceberg that we are yet to unravel. But one thing is for sure, AI is here to stay, and AI is not perfect. I don't see it as an oxymoron as much as it is an equilibrium of sorts. So it for a simple reason, AI allows us to search forward, right, and exponentially quicker. It identifies patterns that we may have missed. So there must be discipline. Yes, will AI take over our jobs? Only time will tell, I suppose. But we want to obviously. We want to have personal assistants such as Jarvis and Friday, and we want to have Android such as C3PO and R2D2. Right. But we also want to stay clear of the Judgment Day. So it is a kind of a real situation where if we are disciplined about it, we will be able to tackle it, because we do hear about AI bias. AI bias is real. If you're not careful, we will take informed decisions that are extremely poor. So
Nagendra,
we need to take great care.
Nagendra, if you don't mind, can I interject in the interest of time? Tell me how,
yes.
In the products that you are building, how are you taking care of the AI being benevolent and assisting part versus the other side?
Sure. So let's take Edge Graph as an example. Our knowledge graph, which has over 100,000 skill sets connected by millions of nodes. It looks at patterns and presents it for the user's consumption. So going back to what Nisha was talking about earlier, it's about identifying those peripheral skills. It's about complementing the user's job to show them patterns that they may have missed. So how we do this is we take great care in training our models. Ensure that, for example, bias-generating phrases are omitted, and we balance this out by having humans interact with the product by design. So while AI kind of does the number crunching, we allow humans to take the decision. Madu was talking about feedback collation. All this means that by design, we need to encourage engagement with candidates, engagement with employees. And I think I come back to collaboration as the product design should encourage collaboration, so that because when this is embedded in the design, the threat that AI poses is more manageable, because we humans are in control of the entire process. So it's about giving the control back to the user.
Awesome. Panel, great. We unfortunately have run out of time. And while we have some more questions I had prepared, which I wanted to pose, but in the interest of time, I'm going to close with a thank you to all of you. Nisha, Madhu, Nagendra, it's been a pleasure talking with you. I want to put up a chart for the audience, just so they can take down some contact information and that about us. So while we look at this, thank you again, Nisha, Madhu, Nagendra. It's been fascinating. We'll probably get into another set of conversations to complete some of the questions that I had. And for those in the audience, thank you for being a part of our day. I hope this was useful, and you could take some things of note of value to you. For more questions, please reach out to us on our LinkedIn page, which is at Edge, or our Twitter handle at edgenetworks_in, or Facebook page Edge Networks P Private Limited. And you can get onto our website as well, getedge.ai. The recording will be available on these social media channels. So if you want to listen to it and share it with some others, you could access it from there. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Everybody have a great day.
Thanks.
You too. Thank you.